Welcome to Search the Scriptures Daily, a radio ministry of the Berean Call featuring Dave Hunt and T.A. McMahon. I'm Gary Carmichael. Thanks for tuning in. Coming up in the next hour, in our Understanding the Scriptures segment, Dave and Tom will resume their exploration of the Gospel of John. And is it mandatory that we love each other? In Religion in the News, another popular Marian apparition. We'll take a look at that story and examine the question, should Dave and Tom leave psychology alone and just stick to what they know? We hope you can stay with us. Our ministry, the Berean Call, offers many teaching materials, including books, tracts, audio, and videotapes, and copies of our weekly broadcast on tape or compact disc. You may also subscribe to our monthly newsletter, which we offer free of charge. We'll let you know how to order later in the program. Now, this week's cover article. We continue with our series of discussions based on Dave Hunt's book from Harvest House, with installment number 14 of A Cup of Trembling. And along with Dave Hunt, here's T.A. McMahon.
Thanks, Gary. You're listening to Search the Scriptures Daily, a program in which we encourage everyone who desires to know God's truth to look to God's Word for all that is essential for salvation and living one's life in a way that is pleasing to Him. We're going through Dave Hunt's book, A Cup of Trembling, Jerusalem and Bible Prophecy. You know, Dave, on the way in this morning, I was listening to the radio, and it just breaks your heart. Now, this program is taped, so it doesn't come out on the day we do it, sometime later. But just this morning, our time, they were talking about the latest bombings in Israel.
Again?
Cafe.
Since yesterday?
No, this was yesterday.
Okay.
But the update was that in the bombing at the cafe, there was a doctor, an American, and he was there. This doctor had been involved in putting people back together from previous bombings. And he was there to counsel his daughter, who was about to get married. So he's dead and his daughter's dead. Absolutely horrific.
Yeah, well, as we pointed out before, the Muslims, and these are Muslims, and these are not fanatics, this is Islam, because Islam teaches that that land belongs to the Arabs, and they must take it back, and furthermore, Islam teaches that every Jew on the face of the earth must be killed, okay? But they literally target women, children, and nobody seems to complain about that. But there's a hue and cry if the Israelis, when they're retaliating, and a child gets in the way or something, or what kind of parents would have their children out there throwing rocks in the midst of a war at tanks and so forth? If Israel harms some civilians, which they try very much not to, then there's a great outcry around the world. But the fact that the Muslims literally target, they get aboard a school bus, a suicide bomber boards a school bus with school children in it. So there's a bit of inequity here, Tom, in the world's media, and even in the understanding of people.
Not a bit, Dave. A whole lot, and that's what breaks our heart. Dave, in going through your book, A Cup of Trembling, the book's out of print, but we are working on a update and revision of it. But the value, I think, of going through this book is that you lay out the historical basis for this. Many people, they get all kinds of information from news reports and so on, but sometimes you're sort of running across the last bit of information you get from the news media. And what we want to do, and what we've been trying to do, is lay the foundation for why all of this is taking place. This goes back centuries and centuries. And I think the better people understand the basis for all this, the better that they can grasp what the only solution to this is.
Yeah, we have to know the facts.
One fact, Dave, as we mentioned in our previous program, is what basis do the Muslims have for saying that Israel, Jerusalem, that these places belong to them? One of the things I want to look at in your book is the cave at Macpelah. This is where Abraham was buried, and many of Abraham's descendants.
Well, Abraham first bought it from a Hittite. That's interesting. First bought it, paid for all this ground and the cave to bury Sarah, his wife, and Isaac's mother. And then Jacob was buried there. Abraham was buried there. Jacob's wife, Leah, was buried there. Rebekah was buried there. Jacob himself, Isaac was buried there, and so forth. There's no Arabs buried there.
Well, Ishmael, you left Ishmael out. He was there with Isaac to bury Abraham.
That's right.
So it wasn't like he was so far removed. But he's not buried there, is he?
No, he is not buried there because he has no inheritance. He's buried, well, Genesis 25:18 said his burial site was somewhere in a region described, quote, from Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt, as thou goest toward Assyria. If you can find it, I don't think they can. But Ishmael was disinherited, you could say. He was not the son of promise. We went through that from Genesis 17. It's very clear. God tells Abraham, and Abraham is saying, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. I love Ishmael. He's a good boy. I'm satisfied with Ishmael. Why can't he be the son of promise? And God says, no, your wife, Sarah, will give you a son. You will call his name Isaac, and my covenant will be with him. He is the one who inherits all this. So Abraham gave gifts to Ishmael, sent him away, and he became a great nation and so forth. 12 princes came out of him. But he did not inherit this land, has nothing to do with this land. Hebron is where Macpelah is. That's where David was first anointed king for the first 7 years of his reign. He reigned there first over Israel. And this is one of the, well, I wouldn't say holiest, but one of the most important sites to Jewish people, to Israelis. And the Arabs moved in, the Muslims moved in, they built a mosque there, and they refused to allow any Jews to have anything to do with this burial place of their most important ancestors. And yet the world sides with the Muslims on this.
And Dave, if Islamic history teaches that Abraham, along with Ishmael, are in Mecca, building the Kaaba, but when he dies, he's buried, well, how far is it, what, a couple of 1,000 miles?
No, about 1,000 perhaps. It's a long ways.
Right. I was thinking round trip.
Right. Okay, it would be. It doesn't make sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, how can you have it both ways? If Islamic history teaches that Abraham indeed is buried there, so they agree with that, you have the problem. He's in Mecca.
Building a pagan temple with hundreds of idols in it, which he never would do, and praying toward this place and so forth.
Why wouldn't he have been buried in Mecca? That's the religious.
Muhammad was buried in Medina. You would think that he would be buried down there. And why did he even buy the cave of Macpelah? What was he doing up there if the promised land is... But then if the promised land is in Arabia, why are they claiming Israel? Well, they would say because they once possessed it, and they cannot relinquish anything that they have possessed, okay? But it doesn't make sense. It is not history. It is not true. And yet, the world doesn't challenge this. They take the word of the Muslim.
Is there any claim on the part of Islam that Ishmael is buried in the cave of Macpelah?
No, not that I know of.
So, Dave, again, as we look into the history, certainly biblical history, but also even Islamic history, they're just things that don't square. They are not reasonable. They don't make sense.
Well, the Quran, first of all, is not a history book. The Bible is a history book. The Bible gives the history of the Jews. It doesn't have much at all to say about Arabs. it says quite a bit about Ishmael, and it gives you the names of some of his descendants, and then it does not trace them further. But the Bible continues to trace the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. It gives us the history of Israel. It takes you into the land where they were brought by God after they were slaves in Egypt. And it gives us the history of the kings, the division of this land after Solomon's death, the prophecies, the prophets. I mean, the whole Old Testament is about Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And as we've mentioned 12 times, God is called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 203 times he's called the God of Israel. He's never called the God of anything else, Arabs or Americans or of Ishmael or anything. So the Muslim claims, of course, that the Bible got messed up, and we've dealt with that. Now, we have manuscripts before Muhammad. We have manuscripts after Muhammad. They are exactly the same. And at the beginning, Muhammad was trying to convert the Jews. He thought the Jews and the Christians would welcome him as a new prophet because he talked about Adam and Abraham and so forth. But he had it all messed up. I think we've dealt with that a bit. He was confused. But
Dave, I want to go back to the accuracy of the Bible. For example, at the beginning, Muhammad, he didn't have anything to say about the Bible that was derogatory. He called the Jews the people of the book. He had held the Bible in high esteem, didn't he?
Yes, but he could not read, so they tell us. They say one of the miracles of the Quran is because this man was illiterate. He could neither read nor write. Look at the marvelous book that he wrote. And so what he said about the Bible was messed up. For example, that Noah had 4 sons, and the 4th son refused to go into the ark. He said he would get up. Take me to a high mountain, he said. And he drowned in the flood. It was Samaritan who built the golden calf. Samaritans didn't even exist for 7 centuries. He gets Mary confused with Miriam and calls her the sister of Aaron. He has Jesus born under a palm tree, and, I could go on. So he didn't know the Bible, although he talked about people of the book, and he did say in the Quran that we inspired the prophets, and in fact he even says, the Quran says we brought these people into the promised land and so forth. But when the Jews and the Christians refused to accept him as a prophet, then he turned against them. He eventually killed every Jew except for those who escaped, and to this day no Jew is allowed to set foot in Saudi Arabia. And originally he had, the Qibla it's called, he had them praying toward Jerusalem. Well, then he very quickly changed that and had them praying toward Mecca.
Well, the thing I was wondering about, Muhammad lives in the 7th century. Jesus lives the 1st century. All right? Jesus has the Bible. No complaints by Jesus that it's corrupted. Jesus reads from the book of Isaiah. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have what Jesus read from, basically. And then we have, as you said, we have manuscripts that are after Muhammad. My point is that there's no evidence whatsoever that the book has been corrupted.
No, there is not. In fact, all the evidence is to the contrary. However, what is a Muslim going to say? Because the Bible clearly undermines everything that Muhammad taught. And the Quran undermines what the Bible teaches. The Quran denies that Jesus was crucified. Instead of dying in our place, someone died in his place. It denies that he is God. It denies that he is the Son of God. Allah has no son, it says. Say not 3. It denies the Trinity. The Quran and Islam, the Hadith, the teachings of Muhammad are as anti-Christian as you can possibly get. And yet we have the Catholic Church is been in dialogue 20-some years with the Muslims, trying to find common denominators. The Catholic Church claims that Allah is the true God. And we have all kinds of people. Robert Schuller thinks it's wonderful. Islam is a wonderful, peaceful, positive religion. And when he meets one of the leading imams or muftis, the Grand Mufti of Damascus, he says, I never felt such oneness of the Spirit with anyone as I felt with this man. So we have an incredible denial on the part of leading evangelicals, even leading Christians, of the truth of Islam. Mm-hmm. We have the denial in the media of what Islam really is, that this is a violent, vicious religion. It began killing people, attacking caravans and so forth. It spread by the sword, and yet it is called peaceful. So, Tom, how do we get the truth across? Well, we tell them the truth, but they will not acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And that is a basic problem with the gospel. It's a basic problem with everything the Bible teaches. And that is a tragedy, because God says in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, those who refuse to receive the love of the truth will be given a strong delusion to believe the lie. God will help them believe the very lie they want to believe.
Dave, we're looking at the history of what's gone on in the Middle East. But this history has come forward to our newspapers. For example, the cave of Macpelah. Not too long ago, there was a tragedy there in which Muslims were killed.
Yeah, they were killed by a madman. I think it would madden anyone. Baruch Goldstein, it was his name. This was in 1994. And he was an Israeli settler. He was deranged, but you got reason for it, because here, this is one of the most important sites for Jews. And the Muslims build a mosque around it, and they won't let you in there, and they claim that it belongs to them, and they claim that there never was any Jewish history there at all. I think it is maddening. I'm not excusing the man. But he did go into the mosque, and he just sprayed bullets and killed, I don't remember, I think it was over 40 Muslims. Israel didn't praise him. They didn't have a holiday for him like the Muslims do for suicide bombers. Mm-hmm. They condemned this. But, you see, that is a point of real controversy today. Now, there are some Jewish settlers there, Israeli settlers, and Israel is turning Hebron over to the Muslims. There are still a few Israeli settlers there who don't want to leave. Very difficult to defend them from Muslims who are determined to kill them. Why should the Muslims be allowed to push the Israelis out of Hebron? So Hebron today is a continual cause of conflict, and it will continue to be so long as any Israelis are left there. Isn't that something? Israel will eventually, if they have their way, be driven out of the land of Israel.
Mm-hmm. Dave, when we were comparing the Bible with the Quran, you have a section in your book, Cup of Trembling, Jerusalem and Bible Prophecy, section in which your heading is Muhammad, the Jews, and Progressive Revelation. Progressive Revelation. Explain that to us.
Well, when you read the writings of Joseph Smith, you find that he got convenient revelations.
This is the Joseph Smith of Mormonism.
Right. When he needed a revelation, he got a revelation. He wanted a few more wives. He gets a revelation about it. Muhammad was the same. He went to visit his adopted son Zaid one day, and Zaid wasn't there, and his wife, who was a very beautiful young woman, came to the door and was a bit scantily clad, didn't have her, what do you call it?
And you're getting this out of Islamic history, right?
Oh, yeah, this is Islamic history. She didn't have her full garb that covers you up and the veil and so forth. And Muhammad just was smitten. He just fell madly in love with this woman. She recognized this. She warned Zaid Well, there are several versions of this story, but she warned Zaid, you better be prepared to give me up. And what do you know, Muhammad got a revelation, and part of the revelation was that Zaid should give up his wife to Muhammad.
So this is Allah speaking.
Supposedly, yes.
Dave, this is Surah 33, and I'll start with verse 36. It is not fitting for a believer, man or woman, when a matter has been decided by Allah and His Messenger, to have any option about their decision. If anyone disobeys Allah and His Messenger, he is indeed on a clearly wrong path. That'd make you take note, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Verse 37.
Especially when the penalty was have your head cut off.
Right. Verse 37. Behold, thou didst say to one who had received the grace of Allah in thy favor, retain thou in wedlock thy wife, and fear Allah. But thou didst hide in thy heart that which Allah was about to make manifest. Thou didst fear the people, but it is more fitting that thou shouldest fear Allah. Then when Zaid had dissolved his marriage with her, we joined her in marriage to thee, in order that in future there may be no difficulty to the believers in the matter of marriage with the wives of their adopted sons, when the latter have dissolved their marriage with them, and Allah's command must be fulfilled.
This is Allah supposedly speaking. Yeah. Well, Tom, I mean, there were a number of these things. For example, Muhammad began his career with murders, a number of murders. There were some poets that had written things that were not very kind towards him, and he had them murdered. I mean, one of them was nursing her child when she was murdered, stabbed to death, and he had a convenient revelation. Allah, what do you know? Allah said that poets were inspired of Satan. He began attacking caravans. Well, his first 3 attacks were not successful. The pagan Arabs for centuries had kept Ramadan, and Muhammad did everything they did in Ramadan. He kept it on in Islam. But anyway, they would not fight during Ramadan. And Muhammad's first successful attack on a caravan, he got a revelation from Allah that you could attack, you could fight during Ramadan. So it was a surprise attack, and it was successful. Then a revelation came from Allah. You didn't really kill them. Allah killed them, and so forth, exonerating this sort of thing that you can attack and kill people to further the cause of Allah. And that is what Islam has been built upon.